What's up, y'all? Welcome to Apex Community. I want to talk to you about mindsets. Believe it or not, your mind dictates your future. How you believe determines your destiny. Having the right mindset when it comes down to business, when it comes down to being a husband, when it comes down to being a wife, when it comes down to being a mother, a father, or even a friend, our mindset has to do with everything. It affects our life in either a good way or a bad way. But pertaining to business, I want to talk to you about the importance of having proper alignment when it comes down to our life. I want to help you succeed in business. Most of you are still watching this video because you know that there's more on the inside of you when it comes down to purpose and business, and you know that you need to develop the proper mindset in order to succeed. Now, as a Christian entrepreneur, I love using the word of God to stand on when it comes down to kingdom success as a kingdom wealth builder. So as I talk to you about alignment, I want to go to Ezekiel 37. I'm not going to read the whole scripture, but God took Ezekiel into a place of impossibility. And he asked Ezekiel, can these bones live? Here, Ezekiel is standing in a valley full of dry bones, full of used to be's, full of stories that are dead, full of lives that are no longer living, bones that can't do anything. They can't accomplish anything. They can't win. They can't make money. They can't have fun. They can't laugh. They're just memories. And God came to Ezekiel and said, can these bones live? And Ezekiel said, God, only you know. Have you ever been in a place in your life where you've come to a phase of impossibilities, where you are looking at a situation that you just don't know if it could prosper? You just don't know if you have the ability to make $10,000+ a month. You don't even know if your business can actually be successful. You watch everybody else succeed, but you just don't know if that can be you. Here is Ezekiel in an impossible situation. Can these bones live? God said, I want you to prophesy to the wind. And the wind began to blow. And I love this because the Bible said in Ezekiel, he said that as he prophesied, there was a noise, and suddenly a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. We're talking about alignment. Now, what does this have anything to do with business? It has a lot to do with business, because you need to understand that the bones could not accomplish what they desired, or accomplish what they were destined to, or accomplish what they were created for, unless they come together. If you look at your arm, your elbow is not able to move if it's not in its proper location. It is not able to move unless it is in alignment. And that's why when your arm or any limb that you have is dislocated, it is now not mobile. And a lot of times in our life, the reason why things are not working is because things are not in alignment. The things that are supposed to be working together find themselves no longer mobile because our mindset is off. And in order for our mindset to be right, we have to get in alignment. That means that we have to deal with self-wholeness. And so when I'm talking about self-wholeness, I'm talking about who you are. So we are made up of our mind, our body, and our spirit, okay? Our spirit is our relationship with God, okay? That has everything to do with our relationship with God. Mentally, or our mind, is how we consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously, think. How do you think? And believe it or not, a lot of times the reason why we're not getting to that next level is not always because of how we think consciously. But believe it or not, sometimes the biggest hindrance is how we think subconsciously. Okay? Your subconscious thoughts are not very loud. But either way, what do you believe about yourself? Who are you? Okay. And then when we get to the physical side of it, this has to do with your physical discipline. And what you need to understand is that all these things need to become aligned in order for you to experience wholeness so that you can experience true success. When your mind is not fully aligned, it's going to hinder you from going forward. And a lot of you, whether you're just starting a business or you're making 10,000 plus a month, you get to a place where you hit a cap. And that's what I want to help you with. I want to help you break through the cap so that you can become more successful. A lot of times we struggle too because we run into a paralysis by analysis. And that is simply where you have so many options, you don't know which one to go with, so you don't move at all. This all has to do with your mindset. Your mindset matters. And we want to make sure that your mind is in complete alignment with God so that you can fulfill the things that you have, that God has for you in your future. Now, let me talk about something else that needs to come into alignment. And this is your function. This isn't necessarily who you are, but it's what you do. Okay. Number one, your calling. I'm going to go over 3 C's. Number one, your calling. What is God telling you to do? What is your purpose? What is your purpose? What is God telling you to do? What is your calling? Number 2, what is your compassion? What are you passionate about? What is that thing that is on the inside of you that you just find yourself doing all the time? You just can't help it. Like for me, for an example, I just can't help but to coach people. I just can't help but to expand people. I just can't help but to help people come out of the box or the limitations that they have set for themselves. I help people see beyond what they can do on their own. That's just something I can't help. If somebody tells me, hey, I make this amount of money, I'm like, you can do more. Or, hey, I do this. I'm like, but you could do more. Have you ever thought about this? Coaching is something that I can't help but to do because it's who I am. Number 3, competence. What are you good at? What is your skill? You need to know these things. You need to be writing these things down. When we go back to who you are and you think about your mind, your spirituality, and your physical disciplines, I want you to list down what your weaknesses are, where you're weak at spiritually, where you're weak at mentally, where you're weak at as far as your physical disciplines. It is important for you to know your weakness because you can't deal with it if it's not revealed to you. If you can't identify it, you can't deal with it. You know, you've heard the statement, reveal it to heal it. So it's not a bad thing to know your weaknesses. I often tell my kids, one of the greatest strengths that a man can have is knowing his weaknesses. So I want you to write down what your weaknesses are spiritually, mentally, and physically. And then I want you to write down, what is your calling? What is your purpose in life? What is God telling you to do? And then I want you to write down, what are you compassionate about? I mean, what are you just full of? I mean, you could talk about it all day. What is it that you find yourself often doing? Or what kind of people are you often attracted to? And then lastly, competence. What is your skill? What is the grace on your life? I want you to write down, what is something that you just naturally do? It just pours out of you. You're just full of that thing. What is your skill? I have a skill, for an example, to bring language to people's identity. Believe it or not, a lot of people have an idea of who they are, but they don't have the language of who they are. And without the language of who you are, you can't get to the next level. And so I have this gift to provide language to people where they feel like the puzzle pieces are all messed up in their mind, and God has given me the ability to put the puzzle pieces together so that you can see a clear picture. Because when we're talking about purpose and business and identity, that clarity is important. And a lot of us, the reason why we can't go to the next level is because we're actually lacking clarity. You can do none of the things that I just asked you to do without clarity, which means you need to focus, because your success is dependent upon your focus. The reason most people don't think they have time for success is because they don't have the right focus. They don't have the right focus. And this is what I talk about to my students when we talk about paying attention, because the first word in pay attention is pay, because attention will cost you. What are you paying attention to? And most of the time, the things that we're giving ourselves attention to are expenses rather than investment. Now, I'm not just talking about money. I'm not talking about budgeting money. I'm talking about budgeting your mind. A lot of the things that you give attention to are expenses rather than investment. When you give attention to expenses, you give your attention into pleasurable things that cannot give back in return. When you give yourself into investments, you are giving yourself into something that may not be pleasurable, but you know it's what you need because of the return on the investment. Hear me. When you get your mind right, you will not give into pleasurable things first. You will actually give yourself to impleasurable things first, because you know the longevity of the pleasure will last longer. When you realize in your mind that you can be uncomfortable for a short time to experience pleasure for a long period of time, that is an investment. But you got to come out of the mindset of pleasure, 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 comfort, 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 because that's an expense mindset. That's saying, I just want to feel good for the moment. But an investment mindset is saying, I know the work that I have to do now so that I can have more peace longer and later. So you got to get your mind together. Your mindset matters. Now, can I just deal with this real quick? I want to deal with this thing that a lot of people say, I don't know if I have time. You have time. I want you to write down, if you're taking notes, I have time. It's not that you don't have time. It's that you're unwilling to make time. And the reason you're unwilling to make time is because you've not prioritized what's valuable. When you prioritize what's valuable, you will make time for it. And so when I say that, it's important for you to master your calendar. Master your calendar. Before you master your calendar, I must ask you, what is your goal? What is your objective and what is your goal? Because there is nothing worse than running a race with no finish line. And unfortunately, a lot of people fail in business and they don't succeed because they don't have goals for the things that they do. And if you don't have a finish line in life, you'll never have anything to celebrate. And you'll always live in this constant frustration, feeling like you're doing so much work and not accomplishing anything. I'm here to tell you the reason why you feel like you're not accomplishing anything is because you've not set goals. And if you don't set goals, then you can't make your goals. And if you can't make your goals, then you have nothing to celebrate. So the first thing you need to do is you need to understand what your goals are, and then you need to work not to your goal. You need to work from your goal. You need to reverse engineer this thing and work backwards from your goal so you know exactly what you need to do to get there. So don't say I don't have time. Just say I have not prioritized my time right. And then you need to budget your time so that you can get done the things that you need to get done so that you can meet your goal. So let me just give you an example of what I mean when I say that you need to learn to master your calendar and you do actually have more time than you realize. The average American works 34.4 hours a week. If you have a 9 to 5, the average American works 34.4 hours a week. But let's just say that you work 50 hours a week. You still have 118 hours left in that week. Let's say that you sleep 50 hours a week. You still have 68 hours left in that week. And let's just say, and most people don't do this, but let's just hypothetically, let's just say that you run 15 errands, that you run errands 15 hours a week. You still have 53 hours left in that week. Let's say that you spend 15 hours with your kids per week. You still have 38 hours left. Let's say that you spend 8 hours a week in church, which, if we can be honest, most people don't spend more than 8 hours at church. Most people don't spend more than 4 hours at church in a week, but you still have 30 hours left. Let's say that you work out for 5 hours a week. That means you still have 25 hours left. And let's say that you just blow 2 hours a day doing absolutely nothing. By the time you get done working out, by the time you get done at church, by the time you get done sleeping, by the time you get done working, by the time you get done hanging out with your kids, by the time you get done running errands, by the time you get done doing nothing, you still have 15 hours left. The question is, where's your time going? You need to figure out what is stealing your time. What are your identity thieves? Is it poor boundaries? Poor social media management? Is it a lack of order, of excellence? Is it an overextending or overcommitting to certain things that carry no value? What is it that is stealing your time? This is so important for you to think about as you begin to get your mind right, because if you desire to have a successful business, if you desire to make 10,000 plus a month doing your online coaching or doing whatever it is that you're doing, then you got to have your mind right and you got to have your calendar mastered, because I'm telling you, you have more time to make money than you actually realize. It's just that you've not prioritized your time to the thing that's most valuable. So that means you got to change your mind. You got to change your mind. And then once you change your mind, you'll be able to see things begin to start changing. And hear me, I know exactly what it feels like to be in that situation, because that used to be me. A lack of discipline, a lack of value, a lack of self-worth. And believe it or not, that kept me out of a lot of rooms that God was trying to call me to. It kept me out of a lot of relationships that God was trying to call me to, because I didn't feel like I was valuable enough. My mind just wasn't where it was supposed to be. And if your mind is not right, then you'll never get to your goal, because everything that has to happen in between is based on you getting your mind right. From your sales, to your offer, to your relationship, to the value of your product, all has to do with your mindset. So listen, I pray that this blessed you. Continue to keep going through the module so that we can get you to your goal, because I'm believing for you $10,000 a month or more. Hear me, if you're in the community, go to the next video. If you're not in the community, I encourage you to go to the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube and get in this community, because there's so much that is happening in this community as well. Listen, if you want to set up a call with me because you have specific questions that you need to ask, or you have specific goals that you feel like you can't reach, my Calendly link is also in the description. So click that and we'll set up a time to get together and talk so that we can get you to $10,000+ a month doing what God has called you to. All right, listen, welcome to Apex Community, and we'll see you next time. Peace.